90s.
So in the 90s, that's when I kind of got involved in business on a real serious note, where when the economics of doing business, the percentages, the averages, income, how to purchase products, how to negotiate a deal based on the amount of money you're getting ready to spend. And all my tutoring came from European. I didn't have any tutoring from black people. There was nobody in the industry that was doing what I was doing that was black. So I didn't have any allies other than those who were from another race. And they opened the doors because I understood, so I could go to their training classes. I used to teach classes for Softsheen products for like 24 years.
For what products?
Softsheen products.
Oh, Softsheen.
Yeah, Softsheen
Carlson.
And L'Oreal. Yeah. So I was a platform artist for them. I was a classroom instructor for them. I was the international trainer for the Caribbean, from the United States all the way down to South America, I think. So I did all the islands. I did that. That was my area. I was a lead technical trainer for the Caribbean islands, which meant I would go to the Caribbean and train hairdressers as to how to use products that we were selling and how to sell the products that they were using. So I did that for years. Now, all of this came as a result of a prayer to be a barber. So it validates the fact that you might have a plan, but God knows your dream, even if you haven't awakened from it yet. So the position I was put in from the very beginning, being in a shopping center, changed my whole dynamics as far as what I would do if I had my own business. It started in a shopping center. So the only thing next to me to do was to own one. So once I did, I had to change my mentality about work. This is mine now. I don't have a percentage that I'm getting. I get all of it. Now I gotta, do business. And business is respectfully dealing with the responsibilities that you're given in order to maintain your success. So that meant that everything else came first. So I had to be sure that the right lights was paid before I was sure I had some money. So doing business and percentages, averages, and how many people do you need at this much money to make so much money? How do you get these people in here? How do you guarantee that they'll come back? The competency of your staff is the future of your business. So I was really into training the people that work for me. I'd have days we'd be closed, the stylists had to come to work. I would train them how to do different things and show them different things that I saw a problem with. And we were very successful. And the one thing I'm most pleased about with my professional career was the number of people who worked for me or with me, that went on to open up their own businesses. Several women that worked at the salon, Sheila, Cynthia, I can just think, so many, went all of them. I've known at least 10 women who went over their own salon that worked with me. So that validates the fact that the manner in which it was done was transferred in an environment where people could understand, so much so until they wanted to replicate it for themselves. And that's the each one, reach one principle that we work by. So at first it was bitter pill for me to swallow to see them leave because it constituted a certain percentage of the income. But I knew it was time for them to leave. So, they weren't. And eventually everything worked out to where I could earn the income that I needed using one assistant. So when I moved from there onto Central for about 4 years, I was working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I stopped working on Saturday and I started working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I never worked 5 days a week after in the 90s. In the 90s, I started a program I wanted to know if my wife and I at the time, could we earn $100,000 a year working 3 days a week, or 4 days? We might start out at 4 days. So it turned out that it was $1,999.99 a week for 50 weeks is $100,000. So $2,000 a week for 50, that's give you $100,000. So we was making that much money and working 4 days a week at first. Then we moved it down to 3. And then when I went on Central, like I said, I went back to 4. But when I moved on 9th Street in 2007, I never worked on Saturday a day in that building. So I continued to work 3 days a week, and I continued to earn because over time, what a perm cost in the 80s, by 07, they'd gone up tremendously by then. So even though the prices were higher, I had more expenses. Then the concept of renting out suites in the building, that's why I bought it. And also, incidentally, I had said to two people 8 to 10 years before I bought the building that I would buy. And I was reminded by my former wife, Ernisa. She called me. She said, Bennett, William, when I was there, you told me you was going to buy the building, and I did. So I bought the building. It had 4 examining rooms on it. They all had plumbing. So I took the plumbing out, put the sinks in.
And what's the history of that building?
What's the history of it? It was a doctor's office before that. So they had examining rooms. The plumbing was already in.
Did you know the doctor's name?
That a receptionist. I can't remember the name.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember what type of doctor's office it was either. But I remember the windows in the front had been broken out. When it was abandoned, it was abandoned. And I remember taking both my wives at different times in that building. And I told both of them, I said, you know, one day I'm going to own this place. I said, because this got just what I need to make it work in here, you know. Because if people were coming and wanted to rent a booth, the problem I had with it was, you want to run a booth in an environment where I do all the advertising, all of the marketing, all of this and all that. So I get a percentage of that under the system that I work. The one that you work, you want to pay me a small amount and then take advantage of my reputation and the fact that I'm going to do all these different things. You can't work here as an independent because I'm the one that's in control. What I mean control, I mean responsible. So if I allow you to do what you want to do in here, it's going to affect me. So here you work work with me. Now, when you leave here, you'll understand why when you open your business that you'll have to run it basically the same way. So it was a good thing, but they all also want to replicate the hours, the time, and all that. That comes over time. You have to have an established clientele to have an established income. You have to make permanent decisions that you're going to have to fulfill. So by the time I bought the building, the income was consistent enough for me to know I could do it. And another thing I learned this from a real estate perspective. If you buy a piece of property and keep it for 10 years and sell it, you're not going to make any money. Because you've only paid the interest on a 20-year mortgage. The first 10 years of any loan is interest. So if you buy a property for $200,000 and keep it for 10 years and sell it, you still owe $200,000. They got their interest, but you still owe for the building. You understand what I'm saying? So having people understand that part of it was something that a lot of people never got. They never wanted to buy one. They would always rent one. Now, when I sold the building, it wasn't as profitable as it would have been had it not been during the time frame there was in the economy. This is in the 80s, you know, when the market had fallen. I moved in the 70s, in 07. So by 17, the market had already fallen all the way down and was on its way building it back up. So when I got out, I sustained myself at the level that I needed to throughout my entire career, where I was able to work the maximum days of work was 4. I only worked 3 days a week for the last 10 years of I was working. And I was able to run a business that way. So I think if I would say one of the most defining aspects of my having done what I've done would be knowing that the profile that I set up as far as how I went about doing what I didn't do it so other people could mimic it, but I did it so everybody that worked for me could see it, you know? So, and everyone that worked for me, Sheila, Winifred, April, Cynthia, Kim, Donna Bean, they used to work for me, all on their own salon. That to me is my greatest contribution to our community, because I earned a living right in my own community. Just like somebody that worked for AT&T anywhere else. So if you manage your life, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters that you're doing what you should do consistently enough to become a habit. So it's not a strain. You don't mind doing it. I love what I did, you know. And I was really thankful that the Lord didn't give me what I asked for, but He gave me what I needed. There's a big difference between a $1.75 haircut at that time and a $20 shampoo and set. You understand what I'm saying? So I started off with $20. They started off with $1.75. By 10 years later, when the firms were like $55, now they up to, one of the biggest things happened here too with this. In the early 70s when I took over,